So we know in this situation that we're trying to activate her anterior tib. So we can use 2 electrodes typically. And I like in this situation to try and put the electrodes right where this perineal nerve comes around the fibular head. So here's the fibular head. We know the muscle belly is down here, so we can really activate this in 2 ways. We can either apply electrodes over the motor point of the muscle, in which case we may have to try and turn the intensity up a lot more to get depolarization and firing of the muscle, or I can target the nerve that comes down, and if I get this right over the nerve, I may not need as much electrical current to get a depolarization and get a firing of the muscle. So initially, sometimes when I'm trying to really figure out where these are going to be best applied, I will use an old set of electrodes and ultrasound gel, and we'll do this in lab so that we can move it around and really find out where the best points are to apply these. Okay? So there's one application. There's her fibular head right there, so I'm going to probably come just distal to that. I don't want to be right on it, so probably come right back into here even a little bit. In fact, we may actually move this one down a little bit. Perfect. The general rule when applying electrodes is however big the electrode is, you want to have pretty close to that same amount of space between the electrodes. So you really don't want these butted right up next to each other if you can get around that. And there are obviously different sizes of electrodes that you can purchase to try and gain the desired arrangement or effect. So again, I generally just use at least smoke over fire. Now again, there are different theories on depolarization and whether you want a positive or a negative over the motor points, and we can review some of those in class and talk about those a little bit. For our application here, we're going to start with this right here, and then I will start changing the settings on here just for setup. This is probably one of the most important key features with neuromuscular stem. The contraction time right now is only set up for 7 seconds. In that 7 seconds, I do not have time to turn the machine on and adjust it to a level of intensity before it shuts off. If I continue to turn this up while the machine is shut off and I get way up with my intensity, guess what happens when it comes back on? The patient is not very happy, and they will probably get a pretty good jolt, pretty good shock, in which case they're scared now of the modality. They no longer want to attempt this. This was not a fun experience. PT will not work for them. There's all kinds of thought processes that go on in their head. So I always start by turning my contraction time all the way up to the maximum time available. That way it gives me, in this case, 30 seconds to set the intensity or to see if I can get a motor contraction before it goes to the relaxation period. Okay? So I'm going to turn everything back off again so that resets my time. Here we go. So you let me know when you first start to feel this. And while you can feel it, and then I want it to be pretty strong. If it gets to be too strong or too uncomfortable, you let me know, okay? So again, it's getting pretty intense. So it's getting to the point where sensory-wise it's not comfortable for her, but we're still not seeing the motor recruitment that we want. So at this point, we shut everything back off and we reposition our electrodes so that we make sure that we find the motor point of the muscle or the nerve, okay? So we'll reposition just a minute. And there's her fibular head. We can try and come down a little bit more over right over the belly of that muscle. I'll try and come up, sorry. Doing okay? Mm-hmm. Perfect. All right, and we start again. So we're on maximum contract time. Our relaxation I just turned completely off. And so here, we're going to turn back on. You let me know when you first start to feel it. And then when it starts to get a little uncomfortable, there we go. Now we're getting contraction. Is that pretty strong?
Yeah.
Is it too strong?
No.
Okay. Can I go a little more?
Mm-hmm.
You say when.
Good.
That's good. Okay. So now I'm going to adjust my contract and relax times to where we really want them. So I'm going to dress this back down. This has a ramp time that's already set at about 3 seconds. And I'm going to turn my relaxation time up. And we'll talk about ratios in lab of contract to relax to try and get the most benefit out of the strengthening here. And if you just watch a couple of cycles as this goes through, you will see when the machine and the light ramps on, the foot will pull up. There it goes. And then when the light shuts off, the foot will drop. And there you go.